no balls fall. You want good words? Data Languager.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Count with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
Good Garrison Financial Friday out there, Western Oklahoma. Welcome to the Skinny on Sports right here on 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Glad to have you along for the next hour. We got all kinds of stuff we can talk about. NBA playoffs have reached the finals with the Mavericks knocking out the Timberwolves last night, so we get Boston and Dallas. Panthers win Game 5 in Madison Square Garden last night, so they'll go home trying to reach the NHL Stanley Cup Finals coming up tomorrow at home. Dallas and Edmonton down in Dallas tonight. Pivotal Game 5 in that series tied 2-2. Softball, shockingly enough, they got every game played last night. It didn't look that way early on in the day because of the weather, but all 4 games played downtown Oklahoma, or in Oklahoma City, with mixed results for the state schools. Young pitching dominated a couple of those games. Was there anything that changed your mind with what you saw yesterday about what may happen throughout the rest of the week? Baseball regionals all across the country get going in college baseball, both in Norman and Stillwater today. And then we kind of hit a little bit last week when the settlement announcement was made. Scott was gone last Friday, so we didn't really dive into what it could mean, what it does mean. So we'll talk about that right now. Scotty G is in the house, and we'll hit that the settlement that's being made between the NCAA, the conferences, all those former athletes. How is that all going to work? Do we have any idea, or how should it work? We'll talk about that right off the top of the show. 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. 225-9698. Give us a call, shoot us a text. We can talk about those things or whatever else might be on your mind. Feel free to chime right in at 225-9698. If you're going to be outside the listening area, a couple ways to stay in touch with the show. Log on to kadsam.com or download the app. The app's got it all. It's got radio, penny news, Big Elk and Paragon TV during the high school sports seasons, and then, of course, the Skinny on Sports podcast. You can find it if you miss a show entirely, wherever podcasts drop. Good morning, Scotty G. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing good, man.
How was your trip?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I went out to Tucson to train underneath a young lady of 77 years old. She traded on the floor of the exchange back in the 80s and has been in the business a long time. And I spent about 3 days with my head spinning in a million different directions. So.
I can imagine she had some pretty good stories about what might have been going on back then.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, it was good stuff. Learned a lot. Still trying to absorb it. Luckily, she's still staying with me and walking me through some software that I bought and stuff like that. So,
Tucson in mid-May. What's it like?
Perfect.
Is it?
Perfect.
Not as hot as you'd think?
It was 95 degrees, which you think is going to be hot. 0% humidity. You dip in the pool for 2 seconds, and you come out, and you're almost cold because the water's evaporating off of you so fast. It was just, it was great.
Well, very, very, very good golf. You said you played some nice golf courses.
Yeah. I luckily Melissa went with me a couple of times and rode in the cart and found balls while I was losing them because I would have ran out of balls real fast.
There's nothing worse than being on a really nice golf course and having to go back to the shop after about number 5 and be like, hey, fellas, sorry about holding up your play out there, but I'm going to have some more golf balls.
Oh, it was humbling. Yeah, we played with a couple of guys and good group of guys, and they said, well, how come you're not hitting driver? I said, man, I'm used to playing 3 fairways for 1 green. I'm not hitting driver on this stuff.
Yeah. The worst thing you can do is hit it sort of at the fairway where I play.
Yeah.
If you miss it way away, you're wide open.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're gone, I guess it probably last Thursday when we started hearing news early in the week, but it kind of officially announced that the NCAA, the conferences had all agreed on the settlement of $2.7 billion. One, that number could have been so much higher depending on exactly how this all works. But number 2, I think the idea was to get away from many of these lawsuits and actually be able to press forward
Yeah.
Instead of having to continually worry about these things popping up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think that's it. I think this is not going to be a press forward accomplishment. I think that they felt that that's what they were going to do with this. What's going to happen with this is this money's going to get dispersed, and football's going to say, "Hey, what in the world? How come?" I was the star player on a national championship team, and I got a check for $328, and the person that was on that never swam in a single meet, from Duke, got a check for $328. This is the beginning of the separation of sports, is what it's going to be.
Yeah, so it's kind of two separate things. The settlement money really has nothing to do with anything current. All it is to go back and pay. I think it's like 2016 is when this lawsuit was filed. Now, a lot of that's still up in the air. It seems like you're exactly right as far as the payout is going to be divvied out the same for whoever joins the class in the lawsuit. So, if the more, obviously, the more that join, the less each person will get. But moving forward now, this gives at least some sort of path without having to look back at what wasn't happening and now start to look forward. I think one of the byproducts we're already hearing about is somewhere between $20 and $22 million out of the athletic budgets of these schools is now going to have to be earmarked toward paying their athletes. In your mind, what does that look like, from like an infrastructure? Does that mean that they have to be are athletes now employees of the school? Are they going to be like 1099 contractors that are paid by the school?
That's a great question.
How do you see that kind of being set up and how that works?
It's a great question, and I think that it comes down to you'd really have to break down. I mean, how many players are in a school? You look at Oklahoma, and between all sports, men's and women's, and see, that's the thing too. Mm-hmm. Title IX says it has to be equal. So until football is separated from the university in some fashion, that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to find a way to say, hey, NCAA football, or really college football, because it's not going to be NCAA most likely, is its own entity. Because otherwise, okay, well, you can't give $15 million of that money to the football team trying to build a championship team that actually does support the rest of the entire collegiate sports unit. You have to divvy it up fairly. It has to be divvied up right down the middle.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize, I mean, how many – I bet you can count on two hands the athletic teams, let's say, at all the universities across the country. I bet you could count on 10 fingers how many sports or how many individual teams actually clear money.
Well, we talked about that. We had a segment on that earlier this year.
That's right. I mean, a lot of people think OU softball, they lose $5 million a year.
Yeah. Well, there were only like 5
men's
NCAA basketball teams that actually made money.
That's right. And that's the thing that, I mean, to say that football supports it all is absolutely the truth.
Well, it's not even.
So is there, I've heard Mark Rogers talking about this a little bit this week, and he thinks it's not only a possibility. I mean, a lot of people think that the football thing is a given, that it's going to be like away from college athletics, basically, or NCAA athletics. Do you think it's a possibility? He brought this up. I thought it was a fascinating question, and one I never really thought about being possible. Would football being its own entity? Is there a possibility that those guys aren't even students of the university, just players for the football team? Like football becoming a club sport almost?
Well, that would be pretty interesting.
Oh, you're not on, Jared. There you go.
If they're not with the NCAA, if and when that happens, they're not required to go to class. There's no requirements there. Am I wrong?
Yeah, there would have to be
think.
a governing body separate from.
That's the only thing I could tell. I mean,
Yeah.
they'd have to go to class and have to meet those standards. But if that
Not if it breaks away, they don't.
breaks away, they
Yeah.
don't have to go to class.
Yeah, I think that would be. Yeah, then you're talking about not only a playoff committee, you're talking about an actual football board of
And so-
trustees or something that makes
Yeah.
these decisions.
Yeah, it would have to be it will have to be its own entity. I mean, it'll have to be just like the NCAA, just like any professional sport. It's going to have its own hierarchy and governing body to relegate rules and things like that. And I think that's where they're going to have to go. So then, okay, so here's another question. Let's go on down the rabbit hole a little bit. Football breaks away 2 years from now. This lawsuit still says that the school has to give $20 to $22 million. Football breaks away. Now does the entire $20 to $22 million go to the rest of the student athletes that are on campus who already lose money for the school?
Yeah, that's the part, man.
So now how much does the football team have to make?
Well, does it? That's what I'm saying. At what point? What does breaking away mean?
Yeah.
Does breaking away mean the football supports the football and everybody else is there to fend for themselves?
I mean, as a legal entity, if you're going to reward one group higher than another that is clearly separated by gender, we're talking about the two genders, then if it's going to be affiliated with collegiate sports, Title IX says everything's got to be even. So in order for football players to make more money outside of just the NIL deals, which are completely separate from all the schools.
Yeah.
Those NIL deals are completely separate from the school. Then yeah, it's going to have its own entity completely.
Well, I think in a perfect world from the NCAA standpoint, they're done with these lawsuits. The schools can pay that money, and NIL is a supplement for football players, and everybody's on the same stipend.
Right.
And I think in some ways that's exactly what we're going to see if football or when football breaks away. I think the idea is to start with a level playing field. You know, a baseline of whatever that amount is from every school to every football player. Problem is, and I guess maybe it'd be alleviated a little bit because, you know, like we know so much about TV rights that we didn't know a decade ago and what they all mean and how they all get distributed, right? So, you know, the tier 1 and the tier 2 and the tier 3 rights and the Longhorn Network created the consciousness of what that meant way back when. And so maybe with football breaking away, all that's in a pile and all that you're not going to have – I mean, you're always going to have discrepancy in revenues from Ohio State down to
Ohio.
Akron. Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
yeah
exactly.
Or Akron. Yeah, there you go.
You're always going to have that difference. But even let's say the Power 64, I know there's like 69, but you know, let's say it's 60 or it's 50 or whatever. At least as getting away might help even that enough to where, you know, Iowa State isn't feeling the crunch of being forced to pay. Of course, once again, it's not Iowa State, the university. It's the football team, which is getting all the money. I mean, eventually
raising all the revenue.
Yeah, but getting it back. What I'm saying, the TV deals, I don't think when all is said and done, I don't think you're going to have that $30 or $40 million difference from conferences from Big Ten, SEC down to – they're all going to be the same.
Right.
And so they all start working from the same platform. And then, depending on your fan base, your booster base, your history, that's where the discrepancy can come in. And, you know, the haves have it and the have-nots don't. But at least I think, whereas it's not quite that way right now because of the massive TV deals that the Big Ten have and the SEC have versus those other two, at least it pulls them up to a little bit more of a fair space.
Think about if football does completely break away and form its own entity. Now the school athletic budget is no longer required to make up the Title IX difference for the women's sports that they were making for the men's, because now you just took away probably 2/3 of what the budget is made out for in as far as money that goes to the athletes, because it just became its own entity.
Oh, yeah.
Now, according to Title IX, if it does that, according to Title IX, they're not going to have to pay near as much money to any sports.
Yeah, I think that 20 million number goes way down if football isn't a part of this.
Not only that, I mean, I've got a friend that's a massage therapist, and she's going to take care of the OU girls softball team all week. You know why? Because the men's football team has massage therapists travel with them when they go to play bowl games and things like that. So they have to bring those therapists in for a girls' sport.
So here's the question. I think everybody – does football actually break away because of a lot of what you're saying here?
It's gonna be a brawl. It's gonna be a big fight. The people in the other sports, the NCAA, not just the NCAA, but the schools will claw and grab and hold on to that leg the whole way. I mean, I think it's going to happen, in my opinion. But they're going to be the little brother holding on to the leg as big brother goes out to college or whatever you want to say.
I think it's like everything we've known goes completely away if this happens.
Yeah.
Everything about, it's certain schools' athletic departments supplement the academic side, and certain schools, the academic has to kick in to make up the gap on the athletic side. Those things become football gets taken completely out of that equation, right? From a financial standpoint?
In order for them to pay the players more, than female athletes, they'll have to completely break away.
But do they even want to? Are the schools okay with saying,
I don't know
out of that $20 million
I don't know if it's a question of if the schools are okay. I think it's a question of is there a group of lawyers and
figures, you mean the people that make all the money?
Yeah, that can find loopholes to develop their own college football league, because all that greed wins, man. All they got to do is just get that started, Once you get that train moving, it's hard to shut it down.
It's super interesting.
Yeah.
To think about. I mean, because it's not near as cut and dried as what it's talked about being if you actually start to think about all the different tentacles that go into the way the structure is right now.
Yeah.
So that's with what's going to happen. Let's say, gosh, there's so many questions and not nearly enough answers because we don't even know what the questions are, right? So, in your mind, if football is different, and what affiliation outside of a uniform, will the football team have with the university?
You got me.
Is it just? I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, is it?
It's a good question. I don't know. They'll have to have affiliation. They certainly will. But then you say, okay, well, if you are affiliated with the school and this is a collegiate sport, then I don't know. It's going to be, like I said, there's always enough attorneys that are greedy enough to figure out a way to separate the money makers from the money takers.
Yeah, it's gonna. There's a lot here.
Yeah.
Here. All right, another money thing. What, 4? Yeah, 4 kickoff times have been announced for OU games. Also now OSU's got about 4 times that were announced. One thing that everyone noticed, at least from an OU side of things, was one thing's missing. No 11 a.m. kickoffs.
Glorious.
6 o'clock.
I hadn't seen it yet. I hadn't seen it.
Oh, you
yet.
have? No. Oh,
I
yeah.
know we got a 6 o'clock Friday game,
Temple
which
is-
I'm not excited about that.
Temple is 6 o'clock Friday. Houston, 6:45 the next Saturday. Tulane is 2:30. And then the one that's been talked about more than any, Texas, 2:30.
Oh, those are so great. The Texas State Fair, 2:30 in the afternoon. Those are fantastic.
Are you sure?
You're saying next year might not be fantastic?
No. I'm saying any year. Are you sure?
I loved it. 11 a.m. kickoffs at OU Texas were tough.
See, that was the only game that I didn't mind being at 11 a.m.
Really?
Absolutely. Get up, get it done.
Oh,
That way you either have time to celebrate all day or,
You go in there, you go to
Cry
the
all day.
beer gardens and watch the early game.
yeah.
You know,
What about-
talk a little bit of trash.
Getting there.
Watch the young kids that are talking trash and getting a little too heated.
Listen, getting there and the game part of it, whatever. It's the leaving that happens. And I'm just going to tell you, the 7:30 to 8 a.m. fair crowd that's getting there specifically for the game is a lot different than the 6:30 to 7 o'clock crowd that's going there for the fair.
Yeah.
Don't wear your nice watch. Either that or do like we did the last few times I went. We had the police escort on the bus from the hotel inside the fairgrounds and then leaving the same way.
There you go. I haven't been in probably 10 years.
That's about last time I went, 2013.
Yeah, last time we went, we got crushed, and Melissa and I were in the car on the way home, and I said, you know what? With what we paid for tickets and a hotel room and food, we could have been on the beach in Mexico for 4 days. And we hadn't been back. But I did tell Sam that I'd take him before he got out of high school, so I've only got 2 years.
Yeah, you're coming down at the end of that.
Yeah. But if Sam and I go and not Melissa and I, that's
Might
a
be a little-
whole different trip.
It's probably a little bit different restaurant. You might be
A little different restaurant, a little different hotel.
Yeah. Different beverages. The ones he gets are free refills.
Yeah. There you go.
Just pay for one. You got it all night, son.
But what about the games in Norman? That has the local merchants have to love it.
Yeah, we were talking about this right before we came on the air. Go ahead, Scotty. I looked all over and Scott remembered the article.
So I remember something, and this was a long time ago. I mean, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago when Texas started stinking and OU just started getting all those 11 a.m. kickoffs. And I found stuff that said that the city of Norman lost $1 million in tax revenue per 11 a.m. kickoff as opposed to the later kickoffs. So that's just in tax revenue. That doesn't count what the merchants lost. Well, the merchants would have lost around $9 to $10 million
Yeah, think about it.
if they have a 10% sales tax like we do.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's a bunch of money.
That's a lot of money.
It's a bunch of money.
On my younger days,
per game. So 5 games last year, the city of Norman lost $50 million.
Looking for this, I found all the way back to 2015 in the Oklahoman where Barry Trammell wrote an article, Will these 11 a.m. kickoffs make Oklahoma rethink the Big 12? That was in 2015.
Wow.
That's how long this discussion has been going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Turns out the answer might have been yes.
yeah.
And if not that, I mean, that was all for TV, but the discrepancy in revenue is so until things change, which it looks like they may, but until then, there's clearly haves and have-nots in college football.
Yeah.
There always has been, but now it's right out in the open with legal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? What'd you learn? Tell us what you learned and how you're going to apply it down at Garrison Financial.
Oh, man, I'm still learning. Just learning cyclical stocks and cyclical, the rotation of the market and how it works and you have those sectors move. And she was just, you meet some of those people that you sit down with them and you think, oh, this is going to be a fun conversation. And probably about an hour in, we did 9 hours a day for 3 days, and probably about an hour into the first day, I was kind of looking at her and my eyes glazed over, and I thought, I'm not going to retain. But she did a great job. She worked with me a lot and helped a lot. So.
All right, very good.
Yeah,
Scott,
come down and see me.
Scott at SoonerWealth.com, 124 North Main is his address. 821-1219. Now, are you? No, wait a minute.
Oil and gas.
Your afternoon.
Your
afternoon both days.
Be here?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I've been afternoon both days for 20 years.
I set the tea time, so I can be where I need to be. Now, here's the thing. I was springing this on Jared right now. I haven't told him of this plan, and if we do this, we'll clearly text you, and you won't just be here by yourself. But I'm thinking about why wouldn't we do that on the patio?
That would be fun.
Next Friday.
That would
have
be
the show
a
on the
lot
patio.
Of fun. We might have a few hecklers, so.
Yeah. We thought about at one point. We thought about doing it on the golf course, and then I decided that's
not a good idea.
We still are FCC compliant, or try to be anyway. I'd be scared to death if there was an open
made it
mic.
this long.
Yeah.
Not to mention there are some really bad golfers in the oil and gas, and
we would be on a tee box, not down where.
Justin McBride played with me one year. Do you remember that?
I remember him playing.
Do you remember him teeing off from number 10?
No.
With his driver?
You've told me this. You've told us this story, I think.
And he hit it off the toe so hard that it went straight into the 100 or so people that were watching from the clubhouse. Justin, if you're listening, I'm sorry I just threw you under the bus, buddy.
You're right, though. There's
not a safe space.
There's a lot of people. It's the only time they play all year.
That patio, people coming up 18, some of those guys, that patio might be dangerous.
It's a good thing it's perched up a little bit. A lot of the shots that would get there would be low.
You'd be surprised, though.
I can't wait. It's been 7 years coming, and I have a feeling Friday on the patio with Tyler that night, it may get out. It may be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It may be a lot of fun. All right,
I'm
Scotty,
ready.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
And
if we are at the golf course, we'll tell you.
Yeah, that'd be
so
great.
you're not just here by yourself.
That'd be great.
Show over? What's happening? All right, when we come back, Women's College World Series, college baseball. We got the playoffs in the NHL, NBA. Finals is set. Plenty to talk about. We'll figure it out in the break. Skinny on Sports on the Garrison Financial Friday, hanging out here on 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal.
Hello, my name is Scott Garrison. You may remember me as Scott the Barber or just as Ron and Carla's son. I've been involved in our community since opening Scott's Barbershop on the southeast corner of 3rd and Main in 1998. Now I'm back in the same building as Garrison Financial. I started investing in my 20s. I invested through the dot-com crash and the Great Recession. I started caring for other people's money in 2018, and I truly enjoy sitting down with my clients, understanding their wants and needs as well as what keeps them up at night. Whether my friends just want me to invest a little of their savings or want me to work with their tax and legal professionals to strive towards optimal efficiency, we can do it all. I believe communication is key to helping my clients reach their goals. For if we are faithful over a few things, we shall be given more. Contact me at scott@soonerwealth.com. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Garrison Financial and Cambridge are not affiliated. This communication is strictly intended for individuals residing in the states of Colorado, Nevada, Oklahoma, and Texas. No offers may be made or accepted from any resident outside the specific states referenced. Cambridge does not offer tax and legal advice.
The Skinny on Sports.
Welcome back, Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Hanging out here on a Garrison Financial Friday. Just heard from Scotty G. Went and got all learned up in Tucson, Arizona last week. He's a full financial planner. Shop the open market to bring you the best value on your life insurance and your investments. Scott@SoonerWealth.com is his email address. 124 North Main Street is his physical location here in downtown Elk City. 821-1219 is his phone number. Also, man, we got a bunch of stuff going on, Jared.
We do.
Got stuff. Pick It in the Park, which is a Thursday, June the 13th at 8 o'clock right here in Ackley Park. It's free. Who's going to be there? Well, Cody Brewer, Cooper Twyman, JC Aquarius, our man Jordan, and also Caroline Grace. Thursday, the 13th of June, 8 o'clock, Ackley Park. It's free, thanks to Josh Thomas, Edward D. Jones, Gas, Hutches, and the Tips Agency. Also starting tonight at 7 o'clock, also in Ackley Park. It's the Prayer and Praise in the Park 48-hour nonstop tent revival. So tonight from 7 tonight till Sunday at 7. 48 straight hours, nonstop tent revival. There are some the park activities, which I would assume means putt-putt, train. I would not guess the swimming pool, but I may be wrong there.
Night swimming's risky. Maybe the carousel.
Maybe the carousel. Is it fixed? I thought there was one point where it wasn't working. Was it spinning? All right, good. I didn't want to throw that in there because I remember there was a time where that was not working as properly as they wanted it to.
I think it is because I saw, during into school, they brought some kids over. I saw them moving around noon one time.
So those things also, that's tonight 5 to 7. So right before the revival gets started, 2 hours, free park activities tonight. There's going to be food trucks there, surf bar, I know is going to be there, youth groups, on-site baptisms, then free food on Sunday at the Prayer and Praise in the Park tent revival, 48 straight hours from 7 o'clock tonight till 7 o'clock on Sunday night. All right, Jared, when we sat here yesterday morning, when I could look out that window through Blake's office and really behind you, it looked like the middle of the night because it was so dark, because rain was coming, and I don't think either one of us believed that all 4 of the games in Oklahoma City would get played in the Women's College World Series, but after an hour and a half rain delay early, everything went off without a hitch. Oklahoma rolled over Duke. Oklahoma State shut out in the last game last night. I think theme of the day to me was young pitching. Obviously, Texas with the freshmen, Florida with the freshmen, both throwing 2-hit shutouts. To me, that kind of the storylines were taken over in the evening session by those young pitchers.
Yeah, pitching, a lot of youth there, like you said. I failed to realize the youth of the Texas pitcher. That was pretty cool. And I think another side of that is the elders, the senior or the older pitchers kind of struggled a little bit. Canada, one of those. I mean, I'd say struggle. I mean, it was still a really close game throughout, but Texas was able to get on top. And then I would even throw Kelly Maxwell in there, giving up that home run early and didn't last the whole game. OU's bats took over in that game. But totally with you. Yeah, the young pitching looked real good.
Yeah, the one that did show up was Kilfoyle. She was awesome last night for Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
OSU, the offense, and we mentioned it at the very end of the day of the show yesterday. They score runs, but they have to hit they have a hard time generating small ball offense. It almost exclusively comes off of home runs, and they can pound it out of the park. But last night just wasn't happening, and now it sets up today. What an unbelievable first elimination game to think about Stanford and Oklahoma State with the pitching that both of those possess with Kilfoyle and Canada. That's a heck of a game, which one of us will have their last series out of here.
That's true. Yeah. I really was it was fool's gold to really lean on Stanford and just the pitching.
Yeah, they just can't hit.
You pointed out the bats weren't working for them really all season, and that was a glaring thing yesterday. They only generated 1 hit, and that's just not going to do it. You have, as great as pitching can be, it just shows you that bats are just as important as dominant pitching. I've seen that at every level. So, but good for Texas though. I was really down on Texas with their, I wouldn't call it lackluster showing in a super regional because they won the dang thing, But just the way it just didn't look like a number 1 seed should play in a super regional. It looked like what like an 8 seed would play. And I thought there might be some carryover effect there. But maybe what I failed to realize, it's still a rivalry, and almost anything goes in rivalry games, especially in playoff situations like that. So kudos to Texas for generating enough offense, seeing the good pitching out of their youth line, or the youthful pitcher that they had. I'm going to give them a lot of credit reluctantly because they are still Texas, but I failed to realize how weak the bats are for Stanford. So that being said, I like OSU's chances today.
Yeah, I mean, it's another heavyweight pitching duel. There's no doubt with Kilfoyle and Canada, you would assume would be out there on the mound for both of those. I mean, Kilfoyle was throwing a no-hitter there for a while and was losing.
Looked great, didn't you? Yeah.
It was just one of those. Oklahoma State, after that first inning, they had 2 on and 2 out, were not able to scratch and run across, and after that was about their only chance. A couple of 2-out singles in maybe the 4th inning and the 6th inning, but nothing. They never really threatened outside of one swing of the bat, which never came, and being able to knock the ball out of the ballpark. On the OU side of things, an early home run given up by Maxwell. She had control problems, but was able. How many times over the last 4 years have we seen Oklahoma in a bit of a jam and Jada Coleman make just an unbelievable play in center field? We saw it again yesterday. Bases loaded, little blooper out there that could have been, it could have been 4-3 really easily. Instead, it's 4-1, and then Oklahoma gets another 2-run home run, and it's 6-1. And then eventually the run rule is on. But that's, I texted one of my buddies yesterday after that play, and I said, the athleticism, if it comes to pass, of a Jada Coleman, Billy Bowman offspring, holy Moses!
I've seen the tweet that said,
"Oh my gosh,
God willing, they have a kid and
have a couple boys and girls."
And as soon, there should be scholarships lined up for them from OU, like before they even get out. With their birth certificate, yes, 100%. Yeah, she is awesome. And I made that a point. I was with my kid. I made that a point to go look how jacked up crazy they're going because of a defensive play, not because of a home run that we always see OU hit or a triple or base clearing double, whatever. Because of a defensive play, I guarantee you they're going to come into the dugout ready to roll, and that's what happened.
And a lot of times it's the person that makes the play just happens to magically be up in the next inning, and it gets and you remember that stuff. But,
their bats, they look good. Someone told me this. Yeah, our man Jeremy said, "Man, they look like the last 3 teams that won the national title."
What's crazy is, and I got this text yesterday, and it was 100% right during the show. Sydney Sanders and Alana Torres were automatic outs in the Super Regional. They just like put them out. Don't even just put them out of their misery. Let them go sit back in the dugout, and they both hit 2-run home runs. I mean, that is why Oklahoma has been so impossible to beat. Is you just don't know where it's coming from. 1 through 9 in that lineup for all these years, that was lost a little bit throughout different parts of the season. But then yesterday, Kinsey Hansen hits a 2-run home run. Nobody's shocked. But then here comes Torres with the 2-out 2-run home run. Then Sanders, does it as well. And so, it did. That's the one thing that reminded you of those last 3 title-winning teams. It wasn't Coleman. It wasn't Jennings. It wasn't even Brito had the last one. But, it was coming from everywhere. And that's when Oklahoma gets to be that sort of invincible type team that we've seen them be a couple of times. So question to you would be, did you see anything yesterday that changes your mind about what you thought going in?
Well, yeah, I'm dumping Stanford. Totally changes my mind on them. That's the obvious answer for me.
Yeah.
Because I have them in the championship series. Shouldn't have done that. So not, in full disclosure, and I have proof, I did pick Florida to win that game yesterday. But they're going to need a lot more offense against Texas than what they showed yesterday. But, they did go up against Kilfoyle. So that's one, she's one of the best pitchers in the state or in the country. Not changing my opinion about OU. I had them in the championship series, and you can see why. This is their second home, clearly. But no, the only opinion I would change is Stanford. I'm dumping them. I'm owning up and eating crow on that one.
Yeah, I had the poke. Here's the problem. I mean, getting to that point where they're at now, that's such a hard such a hard hill to climb now to get all the way back. I think I think's better than we gave them credit for.
UCLA,
Alabama.
Yeah,
I was more impressed with Alabama than UCLA. I mean, I
chances to win that game.
I said yesterday if it wasn't OU, Texas, or OSU, I'd take UCLA. That's not right. I don't think. I think that was misguided on my part. At the end of the day, I'll tell you what did change. I had the stat yesterday that only OU and Texas were in the top 5 in runs scored and runs allowed throughout the entirety of the season. I think maybe trying to overthink it or maybe wanting to see Bedlam in the finals clouded my judgment. After yesterday, there's 2 teams that are just better than everybody else.
Would that be 1 and 2?
I think so. I think there's 2 teams that are just better than everybody else, and we could be in for one heck of a series if somebody doesn't stub their toe. I think it's Oklahoma and Texas. I think they're the 2 best teams. I think they proved that yesterday. Florida probably, in my mind, had the best win.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But it's the way they won doesn't feel good enough to beat Texas. UCLA, the way they won, doesn't feel good enough to beat Oklahoma. You know what I mean? And so, therefore, that puts – and it's 1 game sample, I get it, but I think probably there's been 2 teams that have been the best all year long, and the stats bear it out, offensively and defensively. And it's been the 2 Red River schools, and I think we may end up getting – I think we're going to end up getting to see that.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'd all for it. The storyline scream, right? Obviously, OU, Texas,
so,
and going to the SEC, 2 future SEC schools, and Mike friggin' White and his big mouth.
Okay, so we went through how this all at this point. The only way we could get Bedlam in the finals is if OU wins, right?
To get Bedlam in the finals, we would have.
I mean, obviously OSU has to win the rest of the time, but
OSU needs to win out clearly.
But if Oklahoma loses UCLA, and let's say Texas wins, Texas beats Florida, then they're all three the last ones standing on the same side, right?
If OU drops to UCLA and OSU wins,
they play each other.
They play each other. Yeah,
that's right.
We don't
and then the winner would play Texas if Texas beats Florida, right?
Correct.
Okay, so the easiest way to get one of those 2 series would be Oklahoma State win, Texas win, and Oklahoma win. Mm-hmm. That way it guarantees they're all still away from each other.
Correct.
Okay, that's. I was thinking it was the loser of the winners.
So basically, Boomer Sooner and Go Pokes, just win them out.
Yeah. Here's the deal: if both teams win every game from now on, they're going to play in the finals.
I'm all for that too.
That would be fun.
Yeah,
it'd be fun to see. Kind of, and this was the case a couple of years, 2 years ago, when it was Oklahoma State and Texas playing to play OU, and Oklahoma State had that game won and just dropped the ball at the end there. We may be setting up for sort of the same thing. Baseball regionals.
You want a quick the final thing on softball? This is kind of like I should send this story to Barry Trammell. I don't know because he likes to write these pieces. So there's a Oklahoma Duke tie there. Lily Walker, who came in from Inola, she is the niece of John Hunter. Do you remember John Hunter?
Sounds like a Clinton guy.
John Hunter is now the first assistant coach at UCO. His dad is Bob Hunter. Bob was
Yeah.
a longtime coach over at Clinton, so there's a kind of a road there. That was pointed out to me by John's brother Josh yesterday. He said, "Hey, that's my brother's niece."
And I knew that she was from Inola.
Yeah. And I said, "Well, how come he couldn't keep it in the family, keep her at UCO?" He goes, "Well, that's why. She's at Duke." You don't turn down an opportunity to go to Duke, even if it's just for sports. If you got a chance to go to Duke, you go to Duke.
Yeah, you go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
By the way, ABC, Saturday, 2 o'clock, UCLA and OU. An ABC
If
game.
things work out, I'll be able to watch that game. Of course, I'll be softballing, but if things work out, if my girls can take care of business,
Well,
I'll be at home in AC watching this game.
all right.
And tonight is 9:30, OSU.
8:30.
This dang East Coast time. Come on.
Yeah, 6 o'clock, 8:30 for the games tonight. Alabama, Duke, OSU, Stanford, both elimination games. We'll be back and wrap up of Garrison Financial Friday right here on the Skinny on Sports.
Hello, my name is Scott Garrison. You may remember me as Scott the Barber or just as Ron and Carla's son. I've been involved in our community since opening Scott's Barbershop on the southeast corner of 3rd and Main in 1998. Now I'm back in the same building as Garrison Financial. I started investing in my 20s. I invested through the dot-com crash and the Great Recession. I started caring for other people's money in 2018, and I truly enjoy sitting down with my clients, understanding their wants and needs as well as what keeps them up at night. Whether my friends just want me to invest a little of their savings or want me to work with their tax and legal professionals to strive towards optimal efficiency, we can do it all. I believe communication is key to helping my clients reach their goals. For if we are faithful over a few things, we shall be given more. Contact me at scott@soonerwealth.com. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Garrison Financial and Cambridge are not affiliated. This communication is strictly intended for individuals residing in the states of Colorado, Nevada, Oklahoma, and Texas. No offers may be made or accepted from any resident outside the specific states referenced. Cambridge does not offer tax and legal advice.
The Skinny on Sports.
Yeah, they say this guy scratches himself better than he throws a ball.
Welcome back, Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal, wrapping up Garrison Financial Friday. The Boomtown Grill, perfect place to watch all the softball, all the baseball that'll be going on. Some hockey tonight as well. Boomtown's got it all. Steaks, chicken, seafood. Last night we almost had to go to a wake service, and we almost stopped by the Boomtown Grill, but here's why we didn't. I was afraid I would get my order in, and before I could enjoy those delicious, juicy, boneless chicken wings, I would have to leave the restaurant table and come here to do severe weather. I missed it by about 45 minutes. So we could have went to the Boomtown Grill, probably got it done, but here's another thing. I would have had a hard time going to the Boomtown Grill and enjoying sweet tea when there's 11 beers and 30 bottles and cans on tap, right?
Yeah, it's kind of hard
going
to,
on.
yeah.
Games going on, and it's just, I don't know if it's been right. Boomtown, open 7 days a week, 11 to 10, Sunday through Thursday. Then tonight and tomorrow night, open 11 to 11, happy hour 2 to 6. That's during the week on Monday through Friday. Appetizer plates, drink specials. That's the Boomtown Grill, 2103 South Main here in Elk City. Also, a big thank you to our friends at Rother Brothers, Highway 183 north of Clinton. Rother Brothers, they offer a variety of agricultural and outdoor power equipment, which is second to none. In all of Oklahoma, there isn't a friendlier or more knowledgeable staff than the one over at Rother Brothers. They're happy to help you find the perfect piece of equipment or the parts that you've been looking for. Check out the products to see what they've got. If you need help making your selection, call or stop in. They're always ready to help. 580-323-1981 or just north of Clinton on Highway 183. That is Rother Brothers. All right, you got a little baseball going on today with all the regionals starting, both in Norman and in Stillwater. An interesting question I'd asked earlier in the week. We really didn't dive into it because it was kind of as the show was ending. But I wondered if Skip Johnson would try to save Braden Davis for a potential matchup against Duke. The answer is yes, he's going to try that by saving him in this matchup against Oral Roberts. It's one of those things, I mean, This is always the conversation around the high school baseball playoffs, right? Do you go with your best available, or do you try to kind of manipulate the situation? You have to win the first game. I get it. But at the same time, Oklahoma beat ORU 10-0 in a midweek game earlier this season. I understand the risk, and I think it's necessitated by the possibility of playing Duke in round 2 and as good as the Blue Devils are.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a great debate, isn't it, what to do? Best available or save them for the better opponent? That's a great debate. We'll find out. But I hate doing the recency thing, we played them before, this is how it happened. This is how I don't know if he's saying we expect that to happen again. I mean, I almost did that with OU playing Duke. It was the second game of the year in softball. And then saying, well, that's a totally different team by then. The pitching has to be good. That's really how you advance in college baseball and any baseball is the pitching has to be good and your bats have to obviously work. But if the pitching struggles, then you'll see that it's hard to advance. So we'll see if the risk works here, if there's a reward to it.
Well, and here's the deal. If you're not able to win game 1 with your second arm, the chances of you winning game 2 with your second arm weren't very high anyways.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It does take Davis out of a possible relief or shutdown appearance later on, maybe in an if game down the road on, Sunday or Monday. So that's one thing that it does take away by not throwing him first. But if it's me, I do exactly what Skip Johnson's doing because of how good Duke is.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to question Skip at all.
No, I think he's doing the exact right thing. No. Now, here's the deal. He's going to take criticism if it doesn't work, and that's fine. It's not going to come from me because I think he's doing what he believes he has to do to win the regional, not just win today. Mm-hmm. And that's the goal of it anyhow.
Of course. So that's the point to this.
I think he's making the right choice.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not it works or not remains to be seen, but I think he's doing the right thing.
He's proven that he knows how to navigate this. He's doing a great job of it. Had a great year this year, obviously a couple years ago. And, I know it's after 10, but we kind of dived into it, not too much, but talking about the transition to the SEC and how crazy that's going to be in baseball terms because it's almost a mini AAA stadium every other weekend. So the question is OU ready? Has Skip gotten them ready to compete at a high level in the SEC next season? And there were some doubts early, but after what he's done at this program, I'm kind of excited about it.
Oklahoma State's got Niagara today. That looks like a game that the Cowboys should for sure win. I mean, they're 38-15, but the way that the Pokes have been playing as of late, Schubert, man, how good is that dude? He's just a sophomore. He missed like a third of the season, and he's still got 20 bombs. I mean, he's one of those guys that this time next year when we start looking at those mock drafts, he'll be in that Carson Benj spot, where Benj is somewhere in the first round. Schubert's going to be there next year without a doubt in my mind, with how good that he is and has been. And so that's a guy to watch out for. Obviously, OSU's the Big 12 tournament champ. They've been playing very good baseball. Let me give you 3 options. What do you think's the most likely? Both advance, neither advance, or one of the 2 advance?
I think both advance.
I'm going to go with that too. I think
it's so big that they're both at home. And I know it didn't work out for Oklahoma State last year. With that being said, I know that didn't work. Yeah, that's just – I think they get that bug. They get that monkey off their back. I think they both advance. I think they're just the better teams in their regionals.
I do too, and I think there's a decent chance one of them hosts next week. With what's on the other side. That'd
be incredible.
I think one of them has a good chance to host. And I think it's probably OSU because isn't Vandy is in Clemson's regional, right? I think so.
I'd have to look it up.
I think Vanderbilt is in Clemson's regional. And so that would be where.
So you're saying Vandy beat
I think Vandy
Clemson.
could beat Clemson. Yeah, Clemson regional. Vanderbilt is in the Clemson regional. I think there's a decent chance that could happen and allow O'Brate to host the super regional with OSU getting through.
What would it take for
OU's got Florida State and Stetson, and then who are the others?
Alabama,
Alabama,
and
that's right.
Central Florida. So basically, Florida State would have to lose.
Yeah. Florida State has to lose the regional.
So that's the one OU fans need to just kind of keep a side eye on, the Tallahassee regional.
Absolutely. Luka and Kyrie were phenomenal last night and just an absolute beatdown of the Timberwolves to win that series 4-1. So the Mavs make a return trip to the finals for the first time since 2011 when Dirk and the boys knocked off the Heatles. That first season of LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh all being down in Miami. I'm pretty surprised that Dallas is the one that came out of the Western Conference, even with what we've seen. You know, they very easily could have lost the first series to the Clippers. But give them credit, man. They have played phenomenal basketball on the road.
Yeah.
In these playoffs. Phenomenal basketball on the road. Won 3 road games in this series. Won 2 against the Thunder in Oklahoma City. They end up winning 2 against the Clippers. So like 7-2 or 3 on the road. That's fantastic. And they're going to have to do it again. Even though Boston has lost their only 2 games they've lost have been at home in these playoffs. Boston also went, 37-4 or 38-3 in the regular season on their home floor. And they're
it's a tough ask.
Absolutely it is. And so
yeah, I just hope it's good, I
think it's going to be a good series.
I hope it's a good series. We've talked about how dominant Boston has been all season long and through this playoff run. I hope this is the matchup that gives us a really good series. Not sure if we would have got that if it was Minnesota. I know I kind of wanted that because I thought Minnesota's defense, it looked like Minnesota's just flat out were outplayed and just ran out of gas. I don't know what
Minnesota was built to beat Denver. Minnesota is not built to beat Dallas, and that's the conundrum for Sam Presti, right? Back in the first iteration of the Thunder, Oklahoma City was built to beat who? San Antonio and the Lakers back then, with the big guys, with Gasol and Bynum. Obviously, you had Tim Duncan and some other guys that kind of ran alongside him. But then when you got to the finals, you weren't built to beat, or you weren't flexible enough to play the guys to beat Miami. And now when you think about the different styles of basketball being played in the West, at some point you're going to have to there's big guys in this series for both Minnesota and Dallas. And obviously that was a big difference in the series against Oklahoma City, was not being able to have big enough guys to rebound. Well, guess what? At some point you're going to have somebody, because there's that monster down in San Antonio that's not even involved yet that you better be paying attention to.
Yeah.
So that's the really tough task ahead, is having certain pieces to beat certain teams, but being flexible enough to beat everybody. And that's the scary part about Wembanyama, is I think San Antonio has a piece that's flexible enough to beat everybody. And just one dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe Chet's a mini that, and maybe that helps. But I think Boston wins. And maybe that's just the bias against Dallas, bias against Luka.
I'm trying not to do that.
Yeah.
I don't like Luka, but he's been really good. I just don't like his antics and stuff and his talking.
I love the Kyrie going back to Boston angle of this.
Oh, that's fun, yeah. But I just think Boston is – when's the first game? Monday?
Thursday.
Oh, it's not until Thursday?
Yeah.
So let's before then. We'll
Yeah, we
pick
got
it.
plenty of time to think about it and pick it. We
Yeah.
don't have to do that right now.
Just shooting from the hip, I like Boston.
I initially I'm the same way. Also, NHL last night, I watched a ton of it. The basketball game got out of hand so fast, and I was just like, whatever. Man, the Rangers led 1-0, had a power play, then got an interference on a shorthanded situation. They were about to have like a minute 30 of 5-on-3, but one of their guys couldn't be disciplined enough not to take a shot at the guy that ran over the goalie to get the interference call. And instead of 5-on-3 for a minute and 30, they just had a regular O power play. The Florida Panthers killed it, and then they scored to tie it 1-1 just like 2 minutes later. And eventually Florida wins 3-2 to go back 3-2 to Florida to try to close that thing out. And then tonight, pivotal game 5 in Dallas with Edmonton and Dallas. I'm going to wait for something that I've looked up and I've seen tweeted until probably Monday because we might know exactly how this all works out and we can really start making fun of the Dallas Cowboys. But think about what's going on in Dallas right now. You have the Major League Baseball champions, the World Series champions. You got a team playing in the NBA Finals. You might have a team playing in the Stanley Cup Finals. And you've got the Dallas Cowboys that haven't played for a conference title since 1995.
But they're the most profitable.
They're America's team, though.
Organization, by God, they make a lot of money.
America's team. Suck it, Jerry. All right, everybody have a great weekend. Appreciate Scotty G, Garrison Financial Friday. Hanging out on the Sports Animal. Heck, we'll know all kinds of stuff when we come back on Monday. We might know the Stanley Cup Finals. Will we know the softball finals? I think maybe so, or maybe a game on Monday. Have a great weekend.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.
That ball is blistered.